I had some students who did like metal and deathcore, etc., and they had set up their drum kit in a way that was very performative. So their cymbals were like way up here, and then another one way over here. So that way they had to like reach for it and like really do all this like big motions, and it made it very exaggerated and very performative, which looked cool, but it slowed them down in the long run. So you kind of got to figure out like how much of this do I want for the looks and how much of this do I want for the actual playing itself. If you want to play faster, focus on smaller motions. So like for myself, on my drum kit, I have everything set up really close. So like this tenor pad, I want to have my drums close. That's basically how I approach the drum kit as well. So all of this stuff back here is set up in a very compressed, condensed way. It's not as exciting visually to watch me just do these smaller motions and whatnot, but I don't get tired because I'm not using all these larger motions when I am actually playing, etc. So if you have just a nice, relaxed, flappy wrist, and then as soon as you squeeze right here with your fingers, you can't bend your wrist as controllably because you are squeezing and it's causing a lot of tension along here and in here, which kind of locks up your wrist. So the technique that I am using is trying to prevent that and making it so that I'm just kind of like holding the stick rather than gripping the stick, and making it so that the stick can still like move around, still vibrate within the hand. And it's going to do this just a little bit, okay? So we don't want it to completely fly out of your hand or things like that. But if you focus on the nice, relaxed wrist stroke and make so that you can play everything with that wrist bend in there, like this, moving up and down, then that is going to make it so that you can have more control over it, because I'm not focusing on like my fingers controlling the stick, I'm focusing on my wrist controlling the stick. This is the Chug with hertas, but there are many more Chug variations and literally over 1,000 free play-alongs that are all YouTube videos neatly organized into these playlists on the link at the top of the screen, so check it out if you haven't. When you are using really light sticks, you could use some finger on here. So I do know some like jazz drummers in particular who will actually play with a finger technique, which is not the technique that I use. And so they'll use finger here and they'll use finger right there. You could again, get everything that you need with the rotation, or you combine it with some finger technique with the drum kit. The problem is if like you're doing this for rudimental, it gets really inconsistent in terms of like everybody's moving like different smaller muscle groups, and it's going to create an inconsistent sound across like the snare line, which is why like I always just focus on wrist rotation or the wrist moving up and down like this with your match grip, and then this is just primarily the wrist rotations. On drum kit, assuming you're the only one playing on drum kit, yeah, it's totally fine to use it. A progress journal on like how I'm doing on stuff. So like these are the different permutations or limb variations that I kind of demonstrate in my drum kit streams or drum set streams. Previously I played it at 160. It was technically proficient. I had fun while doing it. So yesterday when I was doing this, I moved it up 10 clicks. I did it at 170. It was still technically proficient. 180, however, was just kind of meh. So I keep track of like how I'm doing and then just like analyze what I can do to improve. So every one of these streams, I go back afterwards and I rewatch them to think of how can I explain something differently, or how could I improve my playing better. So I forget which number of GTA it was, but I got GTA, like, let's say 4. And this was during my undergrad when I was prepping for my recital. And I like started playing it and was like, wow, this game's amazing. I'm going to get like addicted to this. So I needed to not play that game and instead just focus on my recital. So I actually gave it to my professor. He would show up at lessons and like tell me about all the things that he was doing when he was playing GTA. And so I'd show up like work on marimba or whatever, and he'd be like, yeah, well, here's this other thing I did in GTA. I was like, yep, don't rub it in. I'm trying to get ready for my recital. So then when my recital finished, then he gave me back my copy of GTA and I was able to continue to play it. Good times. Thanks, professor. Focus on a lighter touch. So let the mic do the work for you. So you don't have to like actually flex your muscles and like Thor smash through your cymbals. You can just hit it and it's going to make the sound that you need. Your mic, just turn the gain up if you really need it to be louder. Like that's all you have to do when you're performing live. It's contemporary drum solo. You like it? I think it sounds great. 1, 2. If you didn't like it, you just didn't understand it. At the end of the streams, I want to make sure that I like play something that's fun and not just like have myself the entire time, because then when I end the stream, like I'll be like, wow, that sucked. I don't want to do that again. But instead, I want to be like, yeah, I made progress and I had fun because I remember the thing that I did last, and then I want to come back and resume working on this. This is kind of a weird variation that you can do, buzz on taps for a 16th note grid, but it's a great way to warm up your hands. And with the timestamps in the description, you can slow this down, speed it up to whatever you need to get the blood flowing in your hands before you actually start playing whatever it is you want to work on. And you can find this play along and several hundred more at the link at the top of the screen. Pattern 16 was a beast, but sitting there and breaking it down made it easier. So starting with just the permutations that are on my website, specifically the 16th note ones, made it so that I isolated out just one limb, the snare drum, and then I isolated out the other limb, the bass drum, that was playing basically the melody, if you want to think of it that way. And then when I started reading through the charts, I read through just the snare drum all the way through, just make sure I was comfortable with it, and then breaking it down so that it was basically line by line or measure by measure, and just sitting with the parts that were difficult as it was supposed to be performed, with the short notes on the snare, the long notes on the bass. And then I finally read through the charts at tempo and going through it. And that is one way that you can work on this. I hope these streams are helpful for figuring out how you might be able to practice with your own playing, whether it's drum kit like I did today or rudimental stuff, but there's 1,200 hours of free drumming content, some lessons, resources, etc. at jaredoleary.com/drum. Let's stretch and massage. So first thing I like to do is drop my sticks. Testing out gravity. Every now and then you got to check it. So you never know when it's going to stop working. Got to be prepared. Take breaks, schedule in breaks in between each one of the songs, and do some maybe light vamping, like create some like ambient darker sounds, and maybe have like the vocalist like set up some lore or set up like some context for the next song while you just kind of like lightly vamp on the cymbals or something, and it just gives you like a moment to just like catch your breath. And then you kind of like create a story out of this, like make it more theatrical in between each one of the songs, and kind of have a through line or tie the different pieces together from one to the next, while also giving you all like a little mental and physical break in between each of them. No. If you want to be able to play along to this specific stick control, there are a few more variations. They're all available on YouTube, but the easiest way to sort through it is the link at the top of screen, because there's literally over 1,000 free play alongs on my YouTube channel.